Somebody told me you were in the building, and I didn't know you were going to swing in here. It was very nice of you.
Well, I was doing that Dean Martin roast or toast or whatever you call it.
In the vast expanse of Tinseltown's history, one name echoes louder than the thundering hooves of 1,000 stampeding cattle, a name synonymous with grit, gallantry, and the golden age of cinema, John Wayne. But behind this legendary persona lies a journey as rugged as the landscapes he so often conquered on the silver screen. From the dusty trails of Monument Valley to the glitzy boulevards of Hollywood, this is the untold story of John Wayne. Meanwhile, the West was never won without its fair share of adversaries. As we navigate the reels of Wayne's filmography, we'll uncover why John Wayne truly hated him more than anyone. This is one rivalry that ignited the screen and fueled the tabloids. Wayne's early years. Wayne was born in 1907 in Iowa, and in 1914 he and his family moved to California. His best buddy was his small Airedale dog named Duke. They were always together and got nicknamed Little Duke and Big Duke, which stuck with him for life. While in high school at Glendale, Wayne did great in football and acting. At first, he thought he'd be a football star. He played so well that he got a scholarship to play for the University of Southern California Trojans. In his free time, he enjoyed surfing at Newport Beach. Sadly, in 1926, his surfing and football dreams got crushed when he got hurt in a body surfing accident. This made him leave school, and he started working for local movie studios. From prop man to leading man. Wayne's first job in movies was at the Fox Film Corporation, where he worked as a prop man. He moved furniture and equipment for not much money, but at least it paid the bills. He also got to be an extra in a few films from 1926 onward. His first gig was as an unknown Yale football player in Brown of Harvard. He did 13 more jobs without getting any credit until he finally got noticed in the 1929 film Words and Music, where he was credited as Duke Morrison. Around that time, he became pals with director John Ford. But it was director Raoul Walsh who gave Wayne his big chance in the 1930 movie The Big Trail. In the film, Wayne played Breck Coleman, leading wagons west on a trail. He had to compete with 81 other actors to get the part. Walsh thought he needed a stage name and suggested Anthony Wayne, but the big boss at Fox Studios, Winfield Sheehan, thought that sounded too Italian. So he proposed John Wayne, and that's the name that stuck. His chaotic love life. On the screen, Wayne looked like a tough and good-looking guy's guy, but behind the scenes, people say he was a bit shy, especially around women. Still, he got married 3 times and had 7 kids. His first marriage was with Josephine in 1933, and they had 4 kids together. Sadly, the marriage ended in 1943, possibly because he got involved with Marlene Dietrich, his co-star in movies like Seven Sinners, The Spoilers, and Pittsburgh. Many writers blame Dietrich for the affair, saying she saw Wayne and told her agent, "Daddy, get me that." The affair with Dietrich went on for about 3 years, and then Wayne married his second wife, Esperanza. Their relationship had a lot of jealousy, drunken arguments, and rumors of Wayne seeing actress Gail Russell. In 1954, the day their divorce was final, Wayne married actress Pilar Pallet. They had 3 more kids before they split in 1973. After that, Wayne didn't marry again, but he spent his last years living with his secretary, Pat Stacy. Wayne's success and its ugly side. The movie Red River made Wayne a big movie star. He was already pretty popular in the early 40s, but Red River in 1948, directed by Robert Hawks, made him a huge star. The film was a hit and told the story of Tom Dunson, played by John Wayne, and his son Matt Garth, played by Montgomery Clift. Some people thought the movie had hidden messages, but in the 40s, if it did, nobody noticed. Red River was a big success, winning 2 Academy Awards. In 2008, the American Film Institute ranked it as the 5th greatest Western of all time. Red River impressed Wayne's old friend John Ford. After seeing Wayne as Tom Dunson, Ford cast him in the 1952 film The Quiet Man, which was very different from their previous work. In this romantic comedy, Wayne plays Sean Thornton, an ex-boxer who goes back to Ireland to buy his family farm. It was a change from the usual Wayne scenes of shooting in empty streets and vast deserts. The Quiet Man took Wayne to a green and beautiful Ireland, and audiences loved it. Wayne's character falls in love with Maureen O'Hara's character, Mary-Kate Danaher. The movie was a hit, making $3.8 million at the box office. It won John Ford an Oscar for Best Director. And even though Wayne didn't get an Oscar, it played a big role in changing his image. After The Quiet Man, Wayne got more chances to show different sides of his acting. He was a major movie star, and people liked him, even though he had his flaws. Did you know that John Wayne faced criticism for his strong political views and was accused of being racist? Now, let's dig into a different side of John Wayne. In the 1959 Western film Rio Bravo, Wayne delivered top-notch entertainment. It wasn't just a hit at the box office, it was also recognized for its cultural, historical, and aesthetic importance, earning a spot on the National Film Register. In the movie, Wayne played John T. Chance, the sheriff of a Texan town called Rio Bravo. He arrested a murderer and stood up against the bad guys to make sure justice was served. Rio Bravo was enjoyable in a quiet way, maybe not something you'd rave about after it ended, but a good time while it lasted. Although Rio Bravo got mixed reviews outside the US, its success was partly thanks to the plot, which came from a short story by B.H. McCampbell. Interestingly, it turns out that McCampbell was Howard Hawks' eldest daughter, Barbara. Now let's talk about another standout movie, The Searchers, a 1956 Technicolor Western that many consider the best Western of all time. This film was another gem from the two-decade-long partnership between Ford and Wayne, which produced over 25 films. The Searchers showcased Wayne's best performance up to that point. It was both a critical and commercial hit in its time, and still stands as one of the greatest films ever made, nearly 70 years later. In The Searchers, John Wayne gave what many consider his best performance. He played Ethan Edwards, a veteran who came back home after 8 years and had to deal with the heartbreaking murder of his brother's family. The movie goes deeper, touching on how white settlers had racist attitudes toward the native settlers. It also explores themes of abduction, captivity, and the mistreatment of white women. Warner Brothers distributed the movie and did something new at the time by making a behind-the-scenes program. The Searchers influenced many films in later years, including a 2016 Canadian drama that's partly based on it, minus the racism angle. Now let's talk about True Grit, the 1969 Western that finally won Wayne an Oscar. This happened when most of Wayne's prime acting years were already behind him. In True Grit, Wayne played Rooster Cogburn, a tough Texan U.S. Marshal. The movie, based on a 1968 novel, showcases Wayne as a one-eyed veteran who's taken down more than 6 men, all in the line of duty or self-defense. People loved his character so much that he reprised the role in a 1975 sequel. Wayne even got a Golden Globe for his performance in True Grit, though it got overshadowed by the long-awaited Oscar. Now, here's the tricky part. Despite Wayne's success on the screen, his far-right political views and racist comments caused him some trouble. Back then, Hollywood was mostly filled with far-left folks, and Wayne, often at odds with other board members at the Screen Actors Guild, decided to shake things up. He co-founded the Motion Picture Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals to push back against the leftist movement. Back in the day, John Wayne played a role in the Hollywood blacklist of communists. While his political views raised eyebrows, it was his racist remarks that damaged his reputation. In an interview, Wayne spoke negatively about the black community, claiming it was justified. But later, he tried to backtrack, saying he believed in white supremacy until the day when he thought black folks were educated enough to have authority. These comments caused problems back then, and they're still causing a stir now that they've come back into the spotlight. Many people are calling for a change, wanting the John Wayne Airport in Orange County to be renamed. Despite Wayne's personal and political troubles, let's not forget, the man was a cinematic legend. His numerous outstanding performances as the original Hollywood hero made him a star. Wayne was exceptionally good at his craft, and he kept winning hearts with successful movies even into his 70s. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. John Wayne truly hated him more than anyone. Yes, you guessed right. He was his greatest adversary. You see, as Wayne's Hollywood career came to an end, he started looking back on his life. They say time heals. And for Wayne, the later part of his life was about fixing old problems and thinking about the choices he'd made in movies and behind the scenes. By the late 1970s, the tough cowboy and patriotic soldier were showing a softer side. Cancer made him face his mortality, and it changed how he acted. The once tough guy started being more understanding and trying to make peace with people he had disagreements with. He reached out to old friends and people he had clashed with before. Not all problems could be fixed, but some were. Wayne's political views, although still conservative, started to change a bit. He began to regret some things he said before and saw the need for progress, especially in civil rights. He didn't completely change his mind, but he became less stubborn. Besides his public life, Wayne started thinking more about his legacy and what he wanted to leave behind. He admitted to making mistakes and talked with his family about the values he wanted to be remembered for. Fixing things with his children was very important to Wayne. Even though he was always a good dad, being a big star kept him away from home a lot. In his later years, he tried hard to be there for his kids, to listen and give guidance. He wanted them to know they were his top priority. In Hollywood, some people liked that Wayne was trying to make up for past mistakes, but others weren't sure if he was sincere or just doing it for show. Those close to him said he meant it. His actions weren't about what people thought, but about wanting to make things right. A touching moment in Wayne's later years was when he won the Best Actor Oscar for his role in True Grit in 1969. Standing on that stage, he was thankful, humble, and recognized shared experiences with other actors.
I was very clever and witty that night, the envy of even Bob Hope.
Even those he had disagreed with before. The standing ovation wasn't just for his acting, but for his lasting legacy. John Wayne, his life, fame, and Adversary Actors, all woven into a fabric of redemption and reflection, leaving an indelible mark on the pages of Hollywood history. Let us know your thoughts about this legend in the comments section below. Wayne's philosophy and his feud with some Hollywood legends. Wayne stood out not just for his on-screen acting, but also for how he carried himself off-camera. His real-life beliefs, political views, and bold attitude were just like the characters he played in movies. Whether he was a cowboy standing up to outlaws or a soldier defending his country, people believed in him because he wasn't just acting. He was being true to himself. Beyond the movie world, Wayne's life was fascinating. He fearlessly shared his opinions, never avoiding controversy. In times of political chaos, he aligned himself with conservative ideas and was part of Hollywood circles that supported blacklisting alleged communists. This not only affected his relationships, but also influenced the films he chose to be in. Think of cowboys, and John Wayne is probably the first name that pops into your head, but Clint Eastwood isn't far behind. Eastwood's career is built on a tough image and even tougher performances, from Dirty Harry to The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly. These two actors, seemingly similar, had a complex relationship. Despite respecting each other, there was an underlying rivalry based on their different views on Western films. John Wayne's Westerns pay homage to a bygone era, showing a traditional vision of the Old West. His films often had clear distinctions between good and evil, featuring characters who embodied the classic American hero, brave, honorable, and unwavering in tough times. These stories focused on justice triumphing and were set in rugged landscapes with a sense of hope.
Our glorious Technicolor and 20 feet high. Better than they ever thought they could be.
Clint Eastwood's take on the Wild West was quite different from John Wayne's. Eastwood, especially in the westerns he directed, showed a grittier and less clear-cut version of morality. In his movies, the line between right and wrong wasn't always obvious. His characters, like the man with no name in the spaghetti western trilogy, often dealt with moral dilemmas guided by personal principles rather than a broad sense of justice. The landscapes in Eastwood's films reflected this idea, portraying the West as a harsh and almost dystopian place where survival was more important than doing what was right. Wayne, he once famously said that High Plains Drifter, a movie directed by Eastwood, was too pessimistic and didn't capture the true American spirit. Whether alive or dead, it's your choice. Wayne didn't just criticize the tone of Eastwood's films. He also thought Eastwood's portrayal of the West went against the values typically seen in the genre. Eastwood defended his perspective, both in words and through his movies, arguing that the Wild West wasn't always black and white. According to Eastwood, to truly show the rough and unpredictable life on the frontier, one had to move beyond the usual categories. Their differences weren't just in ideas, but also in how they made movies. Wayne's films were big and grand, with vast landscapes and epic scenes. On the other hand, Eastwood's films were more personal, focusing on close-ups to capture the emotions of his characters. He often used muted colors to match the bleakness of his stories. Although neither openly criticized the other in interviews, there were clear hints and remarks indicating their rivalry. Wayne, in various interactions, expressed his disapproval of the changing approach to westerns, indirectly referring to filmmakers like Eastwood. On the flip side, Eastwood often talked about the need to change with the times, kind of hinting at Wayne sticking to the old ways of western stories. Still, Clint kept sending scripts to John, hoping they could work together on a project, but Wayne was firm about it. He even threw a version of the script for The Hostiles into the ocean, not liking it. It's a bit disappointing because a cowboy movie with Eastwood and Wayne would have been awesome, but John couldn't stand the idea of a main character who wasn't a clear hero. Now, let's switch gears and talk about Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg is known as one of the greatest directors ever, and his long list of movies proves it. Back in 1979, he'd already made big hits like Jaws, and was busy with his first Indiana Jones film, but he hadn't won over John Wayne. In fact, among people John might not have liked, Spielberg was probably at the top of the list. So what caused this tension? At that time, Hollywood was changing, putting more morality and politics into movies. John Wayne didn't like this shift. He strongly believed that movies should be about giving audiences enjoyable experiences, sticking to the classic idea of good guys beating the bad guys. Some might say Spielberg had a different vision. When Spielberg offered Wayne a role in his film 1941, it caused a big public fuss. John not only didn't like the movie, but also didn't like Spielberg himself. This surprised Spielberg, who thought he was honoring an iconic actor in his later years. But for John Wayne, it felt like a direct insult. He went a step further, calling the movie anti-American. He was really upset that Hollywood was trying to turn a serious event like Pearl Harbor into something funny. Spielberg tried to talk him into changing his mind, but John was firm. He thought making a movie like this would be a terrible choice. In the end, Spielberg went ahead with his project, and because of this clash, they never thought about working together again.
Has very little identity. His identity comes from what people say about him, what people write about him, and the people who take his picture.
Now, let's shift gears and talk about Clark Gable. In the golden era of Hollywood, there were not only great performances and timeless films, but also interesting behind-the-scenes drama. The tense relationship between two Hollywood giants, John Wayne and Clark Gable, stands out. What makes this relationship even more complex is the involvement of the legendary director John Ford. To understand John Ford's role in this story, it's crucial to recognize his unique directing style. Ford had a special knack for getting powerful performances from his actors. Despite Ford's sometimes tough directing style, there was a deep respect between him and Wayne. Together, they created classics like Stagecoach and The Searchers. In 1953, when Mogambo went into production, Wayne and Gable were both at the peaks of their careers. The film, set in the African wilderness and directed by John Ford, had all the ingredients of a blockbuster. Gable took the lead role, with Wayne in a significant supporting part, and expectations were sky high. But the making of Mogambo was anything but smooth. Right from the start, it was clear that there was friction between Wayne and Gable, though the exact cause of their feud remains a matter of speculation. This tension is often blamed on professional rivalry and big egos. Both actors were used to being the top dogs on set, and neither was used to dealing with such a strong counterpart. Gable, known for his charm and polished style, didn't quite vibe with Wayne's rugged and straightforward approach. Wayne, on the other hand, wasn't one to back down and thought Gable's polished manner seemed a bit fake. These personal differences started showing up on set, with small disagreements turning into big arguments. John Ford, a director known for handling even the trickiest actors, found himself in new territory. He usually turned tension between actors into on-screen chemistry, but this time, it was a struggle. Surprisingly, Ford's attempts to mediate made things worse. Not used to Ford's tough directing style, felt the director favored Wayne, making the rift even wider. One incident during a jungle shoot was particularly vivid. A disagreement over a scene led to a heated exchange between Wayne and Gable, with Ford stepping in. Instead of fixing things, the day ended with Gable storming off. The whole crew could tell that the film's two main stars were in a bitter feud. Mogambo was finished, and although it did well commercially, everyone knew the challenges it faced during production. The tension between Wayne and Gable was so clear that they rarely saw each other after the film, choosing to keep things professional. The rift between John Wayne and James Aress adds another layer to the complicated world of Hollywood relationships. Both big names in their own right, their connection started as a mentor-mentee dynamic. and turned into a deep friendship. But then, something unexpected happened in the 1950s that changed everything for James Aries, who was trying to make a name for himself in Hollywood as a new actor. Back then, John Wayne, the big Hollywood cowboy, Wayne recognized Aries' talent and even went as far as supporting him for a role in the TV series. This support from the top cowboy in Hollywood was a big deal, and it quickly made Aries a star. This marked the beginning of a long and successful collaboration, where they both respected each other and had a strong friendship. Wayne praised Aries' talent and dedication, while Aries always acknowledged Wayne's crucial role in his rise to fame. Their friendship was filled with shared moments of joy, like their love for the outdoors, horseback riding, and even playing poker. But things took a turn during the making of the Alamo project in 1960. Wayne had put his heart, soul, and a lot of money into this film, envisioning it as a masterpiece with grand sets and epic battle scenes. Given their history, Wayne naturally wanted Aries to play a significant role in the film. However, as the production dates approached, Aries, due to personal reasons and prior commitments, had to turn down the offer. This decision hit Wayne hard. The Alamo was not just a film project for him, it was his vision and deep commitment to the art of cinema. Wayne felt that Aries' decision was not just a professional letdown but a personal betrayal. The Alamo meant a lot to him, and Aries declining the offer seemed like a lack of faith in Wayne's dream. On Aries' side, his reasons remain somewhat unclear, with speculations ranging from prior commitments to concerns about the film's script and direction. What's for sure is that the decision he made caused a rift between them. You could see the strain in how they acted in public after that. The friendly talk and shared laughs turned into quick nods and an obvious sense of distance. Even though they didn't admit it publicly, people around them noticed the cold atmosphere that replaced their once close relationship. John Wayne had his fair share of disagreements with other Hollywood legends, and one notable one was with Gene Hackman. Even though their interaction was make-believe, it was based on a never-happened collaboration for a movie called Ford Apache. To understand what might have gone down if they were cast together, let's imagine the story. Ford Apache, a big tale set in the Wild West, was the perfect stage for stars like Wayne and Hackman to show off their acting skills. Wayne, a seasoned pro in westerns, was expected to be the main focus. On the other hand, Hackman, a rising actor known for his versatile and detailed performances, offered a different flavor. Right from the start, it was clear that they approached acting differently. Wayne, with years of experience, took it easy, relying on his charm and presence. Hackman, trained in method acting, dug deep into his characters, staying in character even when the cameras weren't rolling. This big difference in their acting styles became the main issue in their not-so-friendly relationship during filming. As they worked on the movie, Wayne started criticizing Hackman's method of acting as too much and unnecessary. He once told a crew member that they're here to act, not live the part. Hackman saw Wayne's comments as rude. The tension went beyond just acting methods. Wayne, with his strong personality and established status, often gave suggestions to the director about scenes, dialogue, and even which shots to use. While this wasn't uncommon for someone like Wayne, Hackman felt it was meddling, saying that actors should focus on acting and let the directors handle the rest. One memorable incident happened during a crucial scene where both actors had a heated on-screen exchange. The tension wasn't just because of the script, there was real-life tension between them. After many tries, Wayne openly said Hackman was putting too much emotion into it. Hackman, not one to avoid a confrontation, shot back, suggesting Wayne should try some real acting for a change. The whole set went silent. Open confrontations between the main actors were rare, and the crew watched nervously, unsure of what would happen. To calm things down, the director called for a break. After Fort Apache, their relationship stayed cold during interviews and press events. Even though they didn't openly criticize each other, there was a constant hint of disapproval. Wayne often complained about modern actors and their exaggerated methods, hinting at Hackman. On the other side, Hackman, when talking about the importance of being real in acting, subtly pointed to those who just played themselves on screen, a clear reference to Wayne. Now let's talk about a fascinating story involving Frank Sinatra. Sinatra was a guy who stuck to his beliefs, and if he didn't like someone, those feelings usually lasted a lifetime. John Wayne, an iconic figure with different traits and political views, was one of the few exceptions. Despite reported clashes, they stayed friends. Sinatra, at one point, leaned liberal enough to catch the FBI's attention for over 41 years. He openly supported anti-racist, anti-fascist, and international causes. He was part of the ICCP, a group with big names like Duke Ellington, Albert Einstein, and Eleanor Roosevelt. In contrast, John Wayne stayed a solid conservative all his life and was linked to right-wing anti-communist groups like the John Birch Society. Their different political views even spilt over into their film work. So here's a tale for you. Frank decided to hire Alfred Maltz, a screenwriter who was in some trouble for his political views, to write the script for The Execution of Private Slovik. When John got wind of this collaboration, he suggested to the press that they should ask Frank's buddy, John F. Kennedy, what he thought about it. People weren't happy, and eventually, Maltz got the boot due to the public uproar. Things got even more dramatic when Frank and John ended up at the same Hollywood benefit. Reportedly, Frank walked off stage when John took the mic, and their chat later got pretty heated. Now, some folks say they even got into a physical fight after this awkward incident, but John denied it right away. He told the press that he liked Frank and called him the backbone of the whole entertainment evening. Frank agreed, saying they were still friends and even talked about acting together in movies. Another interesting chapter in this story happened in Las Vegas during the 60s. John was staying in a hotel close to the film set he was working on, and Frank was in the room right above, throwing a party. The noise was off the charts, so John called Frank's room and asked them to tone it down. They did, but not for long. John called again, and this time, no one answered. So John took a stroll down to Frank's room, knocked on the door, and told them to hush up or face the consequences. A bodyguard showed up and said nobody talks to Mr. Sinatra that way. Reportedly, John left, but on his way out, he gave the bodyguard a little smack, and miraculously, the noise stopped. Despite their differences and the stories of them not getting along, these two stars patched up their friendship. The thing that might have brought them back together was John's declining health as he fought stomach cancer. In Scott Eamon's book, John Wayne, The Life and Legend, Frank's fourth wife, Barbara Marx, shared how they stayed pals despite being almost complete opposites. She talked about visiting John at his place in Newport and seeing their special connection. Frank felt sad to see his buddy in such a tough state, and that might have sparked their making up. It's kind of a unique but heartwarming change. John Wayne, this big shot in Hollywood, wasn't just an actor. He represented a certain idea of America, one with traditional values, tough individualism, and rock-solid patriotism. Beyond the movie screen, Wayne was a guy with strong beliefs, and it was these beliefs, combined with his larger-than-life personality, that often led to clashes with other folks in Hollywood. At the core of many of Wayne's disagreements was his unwavering conservatism. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.